Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. Today what we're going to work on is MoJS Animations. A lot of you guys have been asking for it, so let's get into it. Alright guys, so what we're going to do is use this library called mo.js. So you can go to mojs.github.io and check out this library. So first thing we want to do is go to tutorials, and then we want to get started. And we want to just take this CDN that they have and copy that over. And today I'm using CodePen to make it super easy and super simple. And all we need to do is go into the JavaScript and paste in their CDN and then save that. So now that'll load their JavaScript library in for us. And so we're going to start out real quick by just setting the background color. So let's do body, and let's make body, let's do a background color of just black. Just set that as black, and boom, we're done with the CSS part of this. So now we're gonna get into the actual MoJS stuff. So the first thing we're gonna do, we're just gonna make a really simple animation of these circles going outwards, but it's gonna look really cool. So let's just get right into it. So we're gonna use this thing called a burst from MoJS. So we can go back to the website and we can click on burst. And just to give you an idea of what it is, it's basically these points coming out from a center point wherever you click on. In our case, we're not really going to do any clicks. We're just going to make the burst go in a loop. So the description of the burst is it has this main swirl that comes out, and it has these children swirls going in this different direction, and you can affect the change of these swirls. You can affect the direction of these swirls by doing different things. So in one case, there's the radius, so you can change how far they're going. You can change how many of there are with the count, as well as you can affect the degree at where these particles are going and what direction they're going in. And if you continue going through this, you can do a lot of cool stuff. And so there's also this option of children options, where you can affect the actual fill and duration of the children. So what that means is that as the children are going out from where you saw them initially, they can actually transition color here. So the fill is going to change. So it's going to start as magenta, and then as it goes outer to the 100th radius, it'll actually change its color to cyan, as you can see here. And you can do also some other really cool things, such as adding the angle on the children. And so now this is going to go from 360 degrees to 0. And so it's going to actually make this spin. So we're going to do some really cool stuff like that. So let's get into that. All right, so the first thing we need to do is create our first burst. So what we're going to do is const burst. And we're going to set that equal to a new, and we're going to call on the MoJS library, and we're going to call the burst option. Burst. And so here we're going to pass an object, and we're going to give it a radius of 0 to 100. So it's going to go from the inner, part to the 100 radius. And we're also going to set count. We're going to set our count to 20. So we're going to want like 20 particles coming out of this. So let's just look at that for right now. And how we're going to see this is by setting up a MoJS timeline. So we're going to set const, and we're going to say timeline is equal to new MoJS dot timeline. And inside of here, all we're going to do is we're going to say just repeat, and we're going to just pass in a value. So it's going to repeat 999 times. So it looks like it's on repeat forever. And we're going to call two functions on this. We're going to call the first one add. And what this does is it adds our burst to this timeline. So now we will be able to see this timeline. So we're going to add this burst. And to actually get the animation to play, what we're going to do is add this play function on the end of it. So now, once we have all that set up, now we can actually see the burst coming out. with 20 of the bursts going through, right? Or 20 of the particles popping out of the center. So that's pretty cool already. So let's kind of add on to this. So now we're going to actually change the children property like I showed earlier. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the children, and we're going to say inside of the children property, we're going to change the shape of these. So let's make it a little bit cooler shape. There's a shape of a polygon, as we saw earlier. And let's make them a different color. So let's call the stroke, and let's call that stroke teal. So now just doing that, we kind of have some particles going out, and they're in the shape of a polygon. And we can't really see them. So let's kind of make it so we can see these. So let's add a stroke width, and that width will be going from, say, 6 to 0, 6 to 0. And let's also add a radius of 30 to 0. Whoops. Radius of 30 to 0. So again, when we go from 6 to 0 and 30 to 0, that means it's starting at 6 and then it's going to decrease in size. So it's going to interpolate over the size of this. And then we're also going to set the duration longer so we can see this actually instead of it kind of flashing by us. So let's start with that. And now you can see there's actually these pink solids inside of the teal. And so what that is actually the children is taking over on the outside part, right? So we can also do some cool stuff on this by adding an angle. So we can make it spin a little bit. So let's add an angle. And let's do 360 degrees to 0 like we saw in that example. And I forgot my comma. And so let's see that spin. So now it's doing this really cool spin effect, which is really awesome. So now let's do something pretty similar to this. Let's add another burst onto this. And let's do burst 2. Let's call it burst 2. So const burst 2. Let's make some space right there. And then we're going to set that obviously to new mo.js dot burst. And so let's create another burst here. So like with this burst, let's do something pretty similar to that. So let's say radius, and then we're going to go 0 to 100 again. And let's add count again to 20. And let's change the children again. And inside of the children, let's add a shape. And that shape will be a zigzag. And let's just look at that for right now. This will be pretty cool. So let's add that burst 2 here. Burst 2. And once we add it, you can kind of see it flash by really quickly. So let's kind of increase that size. And let's also change the number of points that we're going to have here. So let's do change points. So let's make it 7 points. And then let's also change the stroke color. So it looks like it starts off in that kind of pinkish color. Let's make it purple. And then let's make the fill none. And then let's add a stroke width so we can see it a little bit. Stroke width. And we're gonna make that go from 6 to 0. And then let's add an angle here. So angle. And let's do something in like the opposite direction. So normally you just put a number in here, but if we want to put in a negative number, we have to put it as a string. And we can say negative 360 to 0. So now it's going to spin in the other direction. And let's make our radius a little bit bigger now on this. So let's make it 50 to 0. And then let's also do a duration of 3000 like the other one. Oh, I forgot my commas here. Can't forget the commas, man. All right, so let's do 3000 here as well. And then let's change the opacity. So all the opacity is going to do is make it kind of fade out. So that will be kind of cool. So let's take a look at that. So now you can see, let's just see our second one here instead of both of them. So let's actually just see our second burst here. So if we remove that first one and just let that play. So now we can see what we just created. It kind of has this really cool zigzag pattern that goes in and out. So that's super cool that we just created right here in a few seconds. It wasn't even that hard to create. So let's add back our first one, burst. And now we have burst 1 and burst 2. So let's just add some general like circles going around there, and that'll be pretty cool. So if we want to create multiple circles, we can just do it where we have one circle as an object. So let's do this first. So let's create one circle. So let's create the circle, and I'll call this the circle object, and we can create multiple of these once we have this general idea of the circle. So let's do 0 to 200, and let's do a fill of none, and let's do a stroke of white so we can see this pretty clearly on the black background. And then let's also add a opacity so they fade out like we did it before, 1 to 0. And let's do a duration of 3500 instead of 3000, so we can get a little bit variation here and we can kind of see the circles at the end. So now let's actually create the circle objects. So how this is done is using the shape. So we're gonna use the shape function on mo.js. So let's create a const and let's call this circle, and let's set that equal to new mo.js.shape, and let's do ... circle object. And so now all we did is destructure the object into here. So now we have one circle, so let's pass that into here. So let's do circle, and so now we have a circle. So now there's one circle going around here. So let's create a few more of these. So now let's do const circle 2, and let's do another shape, and let's just copy this over here. And let's just do a slight delay on this. So we're going to do a delay of 500. And of course, you cannot forget your commas here. And so now we should have two circles coming out once we actually add that second circle. I didn't even add it yet. So circle 2. And now that that's added, let's save that. So now we have two circles. Let's add one more just for fun here. So let's just copy that over again and paste that, and we're going to call this circle 3. And let's do a delay of 1000 on this one. And let's do circle 3. Circle, oh whoops, I don't know what I did there. Circle 3, circle 3. Alright, so now we have 3 circles. Let's save that, and boom. So now we have this really cool kind of burst effect animation. Alright, and that's all I got. Hope you guys like that. Alright guys, that's all I got. Like and subscribe for more. Peace.